Hey, it's Sam talking about the new moon in Taurus that will happen on Sunday, May 17th in the evening. So Sunday we'll have the new moon and it will begin the Taurus cycle. Now, this cycle of Taurus will also begin with Mars and Mercury joined in Taurus. So we have Sun, Moon, Mars, and Mercury in Taurus on Sunday, May 17th. And then the next day, Mercury actually goes retrograde. So at the beginning of each cycle, every new moon, when Sun and Moon come together, we start that cycle for that year. And so this cycle of Taurus begins that day. So Taurus is about solid, values-based activities, things that really that connect us with family, our values, comfort, enjoyment, happiness, pleasure. And the nakshatra of this new moon is actually Kritika Nakshatra, where the moon is highly exalted. So we have a very exalted moon at the time of this new moon, this Amavasya. And so the moon is exalted in Taurus, and in particular in the nakshatra of Kritika, because Taurus is the sign where our restless emotional mind can rest in the fixed solid earth of Taurus. Taurus is the most stable and solid of the signs, but it's also stubborn, kind of intractable. It doesn't change easily, doesn't move easily. And so, we may feel certain parts of our nature that are stuck for the next 30 days or so. But the benefit of something that is stuck is that it can be very solid. So more than any other sign, it's where we can go deeply into something, where our mind can be settled, where our heart can be settled, where we can sit still, where there's stillness and peace, and a deep loving connection rather than emotions. Most of us don't even really understand the divine nature of the mind, of the moon, astrologically, of the emotions, because the emotions are always moving. There's always longing, and there's up and down movement and attachment and emotion. This is what we think our feeling nature is. We think emotions and feelings are the same thing. They're not the same thing. Feeling is deeper than emotion. Like the waves are the emotion on the surface, but your heart is not just emotional. In fact, the reason you suffer through your feelings is because you're identifying with the emotions. Now, emotions are necessary. Our emotions connect us to the needs of the moment. It's our heart in the moment. Even great Satgurus have emotions. Like my Guru Amma, she goes through the emotion of whoever is in her lap. She goes through laughing and crying with them, but it doesn't wear on her because she's not identified with the emotions. Just like the ocean, it's a good example. The waves of emotion don't drain the ocean of energy. The waves are just the appearance. It's just the ocean in the moment. When there's this much water, when there's this much air and this much fire and this much earth, like if the ground starts shaking, it'll be a larger wave. If the wind starts blowing, it'll be a larger wave. But the ocean doesn't lose itself in the emotions. Just like you don't have to lose yourself, meaning your love and your heart, to the emotions and the waves of the moment. In fact, the reason you do is the reason you suffer. And again, if we were to go through the emotions of, like, let's say someone that my Guru Amma goes through, where she's hugging one person and then this person is happy and Amma's happy with them, and then the next person is sad, next person is this, next person is that, we would just kind of collapse after a while because we're identified with the emotions. And in fact, this whole process is what wears us out and wastes most of our life energy. Most of our life energy is wasted in inner conflict that creates emotion that are confusing, and then we need to just kind of, I just got to get away from it all. So the reason the moon is exalted in Taurus is because Taurus is the most fixed and solid of the signs. And so this new moon in Taurus comes where the moon is exalted. But of course, it's joined the sun. So the moon is burnt up in the rays of the sun, which leads to a lot of spiritual and psychic potential, even. Because there's not even a lot of identifying with the emotions either. So the moon is exalted in the nakshatra of Taurus because Taurus is called the cutter, or I'm sorry, in the nakshatra of Kritika, because Kritika is called the cutter, and it's where we cut through that attachment that I just talked about. Some people say, why isn't it exalted in Rohini? Rohini makes more sense. Well, Rohini is also, it's actually the most favorite nakshatra of the moon because it's the most beautiful and the most pleasant. But the most beautiful and pleasant isn't where it's exalted. Beautiful and pleasantness is fine, but cutting through the attachment is where it's exalted. That's the highest. To still have the connection of Taurus, but in the nakshatra of Kritika, which, by the way, the moon is only exalted in 3 degrees. It's very, very beginning of Taurus. It's only exalted in 3 degrees. And then from 3 degrees to 20 is in its Mula Trikona, which is in the nakshatra of Rohini. So this new moon happens at like 2 degrees 49 minutes. It's right at the very early part of Taurus. It's not even 3 degrees of Taurus. So in addition, it's also joined Mars. We can't seem to get enough of Mars these days. Mars is combust, and it'll be joined the Sun for another couple months. So this new moon in Taurus is also joined Mars, which is about, dynamism and explosive potential and establishing our, individuality and our individual boundaries. It's also joined Mercury. So that Mars-Mercury conjunction is also there, which has been bringing that sort of fiery nature in the mind, in the intellect. So we might be, we have to watch being sharp with our words and cutting things off, cutting people off, not gathering enough information before we make up our mind, and those kinds of things that don't really advance our personal, interactions. As I said, Mercury is going to turn retrograde on the next day, which I'll make a separate video about that because it's an important retrograde cycle. I already talked about it a little bit, but that's also really important. So this Mars-Mercury conjunction will also be a big theme the next 30 days during this Taurus cycle. And if you want to know how this next cycle is going to influence you, you can get the membership forecast as well for only 1 penny, and you'll also get daily forecasts for 2 weeks at my member site. There's information here where you can get that. I publish a daily forecast that's sent to you every day. You'll get a forecast in your inbox that talks about the nakshatra, the aspects, the signs, in addition to finding out how this new moon will affect your sign as well, because everyone will be influenced differently based on wherever Taurus is. So that's something else that you might look at. A few other things about this new moon. Saturn is aspecting exactly opposite as well, pretty close. Saturn is about 8 degrees of Scorpio, where it's exactly opposite this new moon, and very close to the opposition with Mars as well. So again, Saturn is opposing from the opposite sign, and anytime you get oppositions, they bring in the sort of relationship component, because relationships have this opposite to it, right? There's you and the other. So 1st house, 7th house. Oppositions in people's natal charts, or when oppositions line up in the sky, they often polarize these issues within all of us. So first of all, within ourselves, we have the push and pull of Saturn and Mars, where Saturn wants to do things that are practical, Mars wants to do things that are, irrational, but that give us individual strength, but maybe aren't so sensible. So we're all kind of dealing with this stability and, vitality question right now. So that will also have an influence on this, new moon. We also have Venus in Gemini, which is bringing more variety and playfulness and, happiness maybe in our romantic relationships or in how we talk with our partners, bringing in some more intelligence into the mix, and Jupiter is still in Cancer. He's moving around the end of the sign of Cancer, but it's where there's still a lot of profound teachings and, you know, Guru's grace that can be entering into our life at this time. So a lot going on, and these new moons are very important. These are the real cycles. You know, here in the West, and you even hear astrologers do it a lot, you know, and I also do it because you publish a monthly forecast. You know, we look at these months based on the Gregorian calendar, but they're really quite irrelevant. The fact that that it happens on May 17th or whatever, May 17th is irrelevant to cosmic time, whether it's May or June or whatever. If you're interested in astrology, you need to understand the beginning of the month. Month comes from moon, and it's a lunar cycle. And the month begins on when the sun and moon come together. That's when that actual month begins. Because that's when, like, sperm meeting egg and, you know, intention and psychology come together for the next 30 days. Then the midway point in that, when we have the full moon, is the midway point in that cycle. So there's approximately 12 of these months, these lunar solar conjunctions each year that sets off whatever that cycle is. And again, if you want to see how this Taurus cycle, this Taurus month, now's the month of Taurus. That's the way we really need to look at it, rather than the month of May, which is not related to anything. The month of Taurus is the month the month that's starting right now. I mean, even in the Gregorian calendar, the dates are more, they're more aligned with the tropical zodiac, but even then, like the solstices and the equinoxes and the solar months happen like around the 21st or something. So they have no relationship with each other. But this does. So the month of Taurus is beginning. That's what it means. So if you want to know what the month of Taurus, how it's going to play out for you in general, then also look at my member site, Only One Penny, and you can hear the forecast for your sign. You can also get daily forecasts based on the sign of the moon, the nakshatra, the tithi or the lunar phase, the aspect, and the lord of the day, the vara. And also you'll also get a couple free classes and an amazing chart reading template that will allow you to learn how to read your chart and really understand it a lot better. So anyway, I hope this video has helped you, and that the Taurus cycle, the Taurus month, the month of Taurus, is good for you. So share this with others and leave me some comments.